Happy Monday everyone, how are we going? Today I'm going to start a project. I'm not going to finish it today, I'm going to do 2 steps today and the remainder next week. So I'm working on an Aster and cushion cover. Now these are made, I think it's 5mm, I'll double check that size, I think it's 5mm felt and it's a good thick weight. The Aster kits are all designed so that you can make your own bags and book covers. This is a cushion cover. So this one is, let me grab my measuring stick. Okay. So this one is 18 inches square and it comes with a separate back which you stitch down. I'll just go and get the back. Here's the back of the cushion, and while I was away I checked the width of the felt. It's about 3 mils, not 5. One of the things I love about these kits, any hardware you need for the bag or the backpack or the cushion for example is already installed. So for example here the zip's already in place, so all I need to do is embellish it and stitch together. And this is designed for a 45cm pillow, or cushion rather. So I'm going to embellish the front, I'm not going to embellish the back. And I'm going to start by using some foils. Now, I'll do this, there we go. See that? See how cool that is? I'm going to show you how I did that in a second. So, felt is really soft, quite beautiful, and really lovely to work with. Embellishing the felt. I'm going to do 2 different techniques with this felt. So I'm going to start by just sprinkling some fusible bonding powder. Now this bonding powder is actually quite slow to melt. It's quite interesting. The one I originally used when I first started doing these techniques was much quicker. It was actually much thicker as well, but it was much quicker to melt. So I've got my bonding powder down there and you can probably barely see it because it's just this light powder. And then I'm just going to snip some bits of fusible thread. Now this fusible thread was designed for things like hemming and temporary holds on things. So I'm just going to snip a few pieces and it's going to give me all these linear elements, lots of cool lines. Now my foil is beautiful shiny stuff. It's colour sprayed onto cellophane, and when we're using it we're going to put it pretty side up so the colour is actually sitting on the surface that you want to transfer it to. And I'm using baking paper today because despite owning at least 6 different applique mats, I cannot find any of them. So I'm just going to give this a bit of an iron. Now the bonding powder, as I said, will take a couple of goes, so I'm just going to give it a couple of goes. I'll let it cool down a bit and then I'll iron it again. Now I'm just ironing over this. What I'm effectively doing is melting the bonding powder and melting the fusible thread so that it grabs the back of the foils. And you can see that's pretty dull looking. We want to transfer the pretty colour. So imagine I've got my felt, I've got a glue, and then I've got the colour from my foils sitting on the top there. And we've got to let it cool, which is often the most frustrating and boring bit. So I've got to let that cool down so that my glue goes from being liquid or to a solid again. And when it's back to being solid, it holds the foil and transfers the colour. I'm just going to go over and do that again because particularly on thicker fabrics, so things like my felt or a wool or anything that's got a little bit of body and density, the bonding powder takes longer to melt than I'm used to. So again, we'll let that cool down and wait for it to reset. It's still quite warm. Now because the felt is all a thick fabric, it actually holds the heat for quite a bit of time. So I'll just give it a bit of a flap. This is where I'm the most impatient, when I'm having to wait for this to take. But it's the cooler it is, the more solid your glue in the background, the better your transfer is going to be. So, see if I can start to show you this. See how that's coming off? Now there's quite a lot of bonding powder there that's still quite solid, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to do it again. Sigh. Bonding powder was originally designed for the papercraft world, and it's used in a whole range of things. And then the other place that it was designed for was mending, similarly to the fusible thread. Now we've got a couple of different brands of fusible thread on the website, and we also have the bonding powder on the website if you're interested in having a go. These foils come in packs of 5 colours. So there's the green, the blue, a purple, a pink, and a sort of coppery colour. They're very soft, slightly muted. Often I buy foils that are really bright and loud. And the size of these pieces are 6 by 12 inches, and you get a pack of 5. So you get all 5 in the pack. There we go. So I'm going to go through and do this a couple more times, and I'm going to change my colours because I want to use some of the blue and the purple, and I'm just going to work around the top and sides here, and the reason for that will become clear shortly. Just before I give up on that, the foils were originally designed to be part of the packaging world. So when you look at your toothpaste aisle in the supermarkets or other places like that, and you see all the bright shiny bits that are on the packaging, that's what foils are. And you can get them obviously in really large. If you're a manufacturer, you buy them in massive great rolls and you run them through a heat machine, and it transfers the colour and the shine onto your packaging. For what we buy, we just buy tiny little bits. So I'm going to pop the blue there and give it an iron, and then I'll come back and show you what I've done once I've finished the blue and the purple. I've finished applying a little bit of green and purple and blue foil all over the top and sides of my cushion. So it looks pretty special right now. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do some machine embroidery. Well, not so much embroidery, machine stitching. And I'm going to use dazzle thread. Now the dazzle thread is a particularly thick thread. You cannot, or it's not recommended to go inside the sewing machine needle. It's too thick and you run into all sorts of problems. And that's dazzle there, so you can see it's quite a thick thread. It's actually an 8 weight, so it's one of the thickest that you're going to get in most thread ranges. But I like to use it in the bobbin. So let's go over to the machine and we will pop some in the bobbin and do some stitching. This is the first one that I've popped into my bobbin. I'm going to use a couple of different colours. As you can see, I've got them laid out here, and the silver, of course, which I won't use all of them, but I'll use some. So I'm going to pop this in, and then I'm going to work on the reverse side of my cushion cover. Now, I don't know if you can see there, but I've loosely marked where I want to stop, because I'm effectively going to create a range of little stems. So I'm going to start roughly in the middle on the edge, which will be the base. And I'm going to stitch more or less just a basic straight stitch to my edge. Now once I've done this first one, it's going to give me a really good idea of where I'm up to and how much thread I need. So let's have a look at what this looks like. So you can see the thread there. Now I'm going to keep going until I run out of this thread, and then I'm going to swap it over and do something else. So I won't bore you senseless with what I'm doing here. I'll just just going to keep working up and down this space and do a whole pile of stitching with the metallic thread on the front. Now because I'm stitching onto felt, it's being absorbed really thoroughly into the felt. On a different sort of surface that would really sit up, but the felt absorbs a lot of it, so it's creates an interesting different effect. Let's come back when I've done all of this and I'll show you the finished piece. But I'll just do one more. And we'll have a close look. Alright, so a bit hard to see in this light, but you can see that the metallic nature of the thread is really showing up, and you've got this beautiful luminosity. And then when I keep working all the way through and build up lots and lots of layers of this, you'll get the most amazing finished effect. So let's come back when it's finished. Okay, so I've stitched almost all of my stems, and I'll tidy that all up as we go, but that's all I'm going to do for today. So we've looked at some foils and we've done some bobbin work. Next week we're going to do some applique and a little bit of finishing and some embroidery.